What's up, people? It's your boy Riley Escobar holding it down for y'all once again. And y'all listening to the Just Send It podcast. Y'all know the podcast created to change perspectives, explore new concepts and themes, while still providing that timeless conversation that will leave you rushing back for more. So y'all already know what time it is. We on episode 4. So without further ado, let's get into it. So cue intro, please. What's good, fam? You alright, man? You chilling, man? Yeah, yo, I'm good, yo. I'm good, yo. You know, Gucci, you know, out here maintaining, trying to do my thing, yo. Good to know, man. What's good, fam? You good? Yeah, I'm good, yo. Try and flood the streets or whatever. You know how we do, man. We just try, we try to elevate. Briefcase state of mind, So y'all might not know this about me, but I'm a huge anime fan. Like, huge anime fan. Like, and back in the day, I fucked with the big three like super hard. Like, pause. Hold up. Pause. What's bringing it back? So y'all might not know this about me, right? But I'm a huge anime fan, and like I really fucks with the big three. One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, especially when they was still like ongoing series. I know Bleach has finished, and Naruto has finished. One Piece had these, the devil fruits, which was weird, but for some reason, like they had some crazy potential, and that's before we, where we at now in the manga. At this time that any fruit is just kind of crazy. And then of course Bleach had the most epic of bankais. Like the Bleach bankais was epic. Like they was like the best thing you could possibly draw. And I spent like countless times like in high school at Wild Lake, at Milford, at Newtown, this, sketching Ichigo, Bankai, Teza Zangetsu, and some more stuff. So like the Bankais, epic, like epic. But Naruto, I mean Naruto had the Sharingan, and I'm talking the OG Sharingan, which was goated back then, because that's before these new enhanced advanced versions of the Sharingan, like the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and then the Rinnegan. The OG Sharingan back in the day was like was goaded. And I know y'all probably like I probably thinking like, yo, like what the fuck is he talking about? Like, why is he talking about all this anime stuff? Like, that's not what the title of the podcast said. It said something about insight. But I'm gonna get to that. So let me just stroll down memory lane. Can I do that? Like, can I just stroll down memory lane a little bit? So so back in the day, right? So when we first got introduced to the Sharingan, right? We learned that it had two powers. The first powers is the eye of hypnotism, which allows you to cast genjutsu, create illusions, do other stuff that kind of like uh that can tweak and affect the target's mind, right? Which is super dope. And it's crazy because back in the day, when it comes to like watching and listening to anime, it was like you was put in like a weird group, like you was a nerd or you was like a neat or something like that. Like you was weird. But nowadays, like anime is this so widely accepted that it's like, what can you say? My bad, y'all, because Mom Dukes called me. Like she called me, so I had to answer. But it's crazy how people always call you in the midst of recording something. So that's very interesting. But let's get into it. So where was I at? Okay, I was talking about the Sharingan, right? So when we first got introduced to the Sharingan, it had two powers. It had the Eye of Hypnotism, which allowed you to kind of like create illusions in a person's mind and manipulate a person's mind. That's kind of like what the power was. And like when we first got introduced to it, it was like, okay, it was cool or whatever, but they didn't really flesh it out. Later on in the series, we realized like, yo, the genjutsu is like super hacks. But then the other power of the Sharingan, which we're going to kind of discuss, is like the eye of insight. And when I say this joint is hacks, this joint is super hacks. So I'm just going to mention kind of like the powers that it has, and like you'll see why it's hacks. So you can see chakra, or energy or aura, right? Which is invisible, which is typically invisible. It grants you like clarity of perspectives. So you able to read lips, you can read people's pencil movement. And I gotta say it that the boy Sasuke Uchiha at the tuning exams when everybody was sitting in the class cheating and he used his Sharingan to like kind of like watch bro back who was like a tuning or something like that, write the test, and he was mimicking the joint. That was fire. Like we needed that when we was in school back then, but we didn't have our Sharingans yet. So that joint was fire. But you can mimic movements. Um, that's crazy. Also, like you also can read the enemies like hand seal, like what they about to do, and like you can perform that jutsu or that move if you're capable of it. So in short, you can pretty much you can copy stuff and you can read movements. Like that's hacks. Like with just those abilities alone, that will make you a god. And when I first seen like Kakashi takes the kids' gloves off against Zabuza and got Zabuza the fuck out of there, boy, I had to leave the room. I was like, yo, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like, he really took the kid gloves off, got Zabuza right out of there. Water Dragon Jutsu, Giant Vortex Jutsu, and all you know, Zabuza was just getting blown away, like getting blown out. I was like, damn, like that shit crazy. At that moment, I got up, I had to leave the room. I couldn't watch no more of this shit. I was like, yo, this shit is crazy. And I was thinking, like, what the fuck are we doing with Kakashi? Like, there's no way he could get more goaded than this. Like, what are we doing? Like, at that point, we had to change the show from Naruto to Kakashi. I was telling people, like, yo, when I get out of school, I'm going home and watch Kakashi. And they was like, bro, you don't you mean Naruto? Like, no, Kakashi. That's what I'm going home to watch, Kakashi. So that shit is so crazy. But I'm saying all that to say this. Over time, right? I eventually found out that I started to develop the Sharingan myself, right? And become a very insightful person. And I know y'all probably like laughing or y'all like, yo, that's so weird, or like he's stupid. But like follow me. Like listen and follow me. So it was around like I would say maybe like 2014, 2016-ish, give or take. It's like when I really start to like become more of like an insightful person. Like I start really like grasping the insight and like how the world works, how people work, how people behave. And like since then, it's 2021 now. Like the whole game kind of like has opened up for me, like personally, when it comes to like socially interacting with people. And the funny thing, right? My friend, she said the reason why I'm probably so insightful is because I asked so many questions. So yeah, like she got me because I be asking a bunch of questions. Like and anybody that know me, they be looking like, damn, Twan, you be asking like a bunch of questions. Some of them be like just regular general questions. Some of them be like wild, outlandish questions, and like a lot of people be kind of taken back because they be looking like, where the hell are you going? Or what's the whole purpose of this question? It's like, yo, I'm working on something. Like I'm doing some research. It may be for a podcast episode. It may be for a YouTube video back when I used to do YouTube videos. It may be like for a song I'm writing, or just maybe just like a theory, like a theory that I'm kind of conceptualizing in my head that I'm trying to develop. So like I always ask these questions, right? But it's so funny that she mentioned that. Like she got me. Like I swear to God, I laughed for like 15 minutes straight when she sent the message. So like shout out to her. But um, but with each question that like I kind of ask a person, right? I gain like a greater understanding of like what type of person that is, right? And like I find that people are kind of like puzzles, right? This is how it is. People are kind of like puzzles, and like you got to listen to what they say, but you also got to listen to what they don't say to to solve them, like to solve that person, to get like a full picture of like what that person is, right? So like when you have a conversation with people, people give you their responses and they respond in a certain way. Sometimes people respond politically correct. Some people just are real rap raw and they give it to you straight up and they straightforward. some people talk in a roundabout right way, but like you gotta listen to like what they saying, and then you also gotta listen to what they not say, and it kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of like they doing this for this reason. They doing this because they're afraid to, speak up, or they doing this because they trying to be proper, or they doing this because like this is the way that they've been taught. This is the way that they've been shown growing up, that you got to be straight and direct, and you got to be real rap raw. So like it gives you like more insight on like what kind of person that person is. And like I learn people really fast because like she kind of said, like I asked a lot of questions. So now I'm real like direct with my questions. Like the questions that I ask really give me the desired result. And then one of the questions is like, what are you passionate about? And then people that tells me like what a person love, what a person is like working towards. I always ask people like, what are you working towards? And then I ask people about like kind of like that background, like how they was like in college, or how they was growing up with that family. And it kind of gave me a good sense of like, okay, every aspect of their life, like how that timeline has been looking, right? And where they hitting. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's why this person is like this right now in 2021, because of these things that transpired. So it makes sense to me. Like I draw the connections, I put the puzzle together, and I see the whole picture, right? And because of that, I learn people so quickly, right? I learn like what motivate people, what people don't like, what people, working towards, what people's fears, what people have like issues with. I learned it so quickly. And it makes me like hardly surprised when a person says something about a situation that they in, or the discussion that they had, or their upcoming plans. Like they plan to transition from doing music to doing a podcast or something like that. It's like, oh, I could see that happening. Like I already kind of knew he was gonna do that. And it's like, how you knew? And I run it back. I said, right here, you mentioned things, something about being good at talking to people. And then right here, you mentioned how you listen to a couple other podcasts. Like I'll backtrack all the way to the points where like these probably are the moments which led up to you making this decision. And people kind of like will look at you kind of crazy, like, huh? Like you really were able to draw that from those moments? And it's like, yeah, like I really like pay attention and learn people like really well. And it's a very interesting thing. Like it's a very interesting thing, interesting skill to have. However, like it can be very sucky as well. Like um the biggest curse is like knowing, like kind of like knowing like the bad sucky stuff that's gonna transpire. And like sometimes you don't have the ability to change it because this is happening in someone else's life, or like they may be doing it to you. Like you may catch the smoke because of it, right? like I think a manager slacking, like you work the same shift as a manager who's slacking, and you kind of instinctively know like he's never really gonna get better than what he actually is. And it's like they eventually gonna put pressure on him to like quit or fire or get fired or move on or something like that, and it's gonna affect you, and you see the fallout. Like you just there to witness the whole fallout. You plotting it, like you've been on a descent for the past 2 years, 3 years. You can kind of see it. And that's why like in certain situations like that, insight kind of sucks. Now I see why like in the movies, when people have the ability to foresight, like the look in the future, they tend to like nerf them. Like you only can look in the future 15 seconds, or like you gotta have physical contact with the person to look in the future, and you can't look that far. And like it makes sense why they have that ability, because like sometimes not knowing is better. But like when you gifted with the ability of like insight, yeah, like sometimes it sucks. So let's actually talk about it, right? So let's talk about what is insight, aka the Sharingan. So insight is having a accurate and deep understanding or perspective, right? Or perception. It's perception, not perspective. It's perception. And like some of the definitions that I looked up said the faculty of seeing in a character or underlying truths. And like it's wild. It's kind of wild, but like I often when I'm interacting with people and people are telling me about their situations or what's going on with them, a lot of times I'd be like, like, what happened is valid. It makes sense. It could be like my manager dragged on me, or like these people jumped me, or they did me dirty, and I'd be like, like it makes sense. And I was like, well, how does it make sense? Like, then I had to go and backtrack, like how it made sense. And they looking at like crazy, like you was able to deduct that from those moments. And it's like, yes, sir, because I got insight. Like, dang, like, and sometimes I be looking kind of crazy because I be looking like you couldn't see that. Like you couldn't see that was where the pitfalls was gonna be, or that's where this thing was gonna lead. Like you couldn't see that. And like a lot of times they be looking like, nah, like I wasn't able to deduct that. And I'd be like, dang, it's just the power of the Sharingan. So I got it. But um when I was thinking about like, dang, like what can the main topic for this podcast episode be? Like I want to talk about insight. I shopped it to my homie, and I was like, "Yo, I want to talk about insight for this upcoming podcast. What should the main topic should be?" So he actually went and like, you know what? He called it basic context clues. Uh, he's stupid as shit sometimes. He called it basic context clues. Uh, and I can see why you say that. Like, it's a validity to that insight is just basic context clues or like an advanced version of context clues. I can see that. But when he actually read the definition about, having or showing accurate and deep understanding, he was like, yo, that kind of describes you really well, Twan. Um, so he was like, what you should do is you should actually kind of like break down, like insight and how you actually use it in your personal life. And I was like, you know what? I may do that. So I often use my insight, you know, for good, like ultimately. However, I have thought about like how could I possibly use this skill for evil? Because nah, I just fuck with y'all. I just fuck with y'all. But like, hey, sometimes we think about that. Like sometimes we do think like, what if I use my talents for evil? Like, how far could I get in this game? Like, yeah, you'll destroy yourself in the eyes of the public, and like morally you'll destroy yourself, and ethically you'll destroy yourself, but you'll be rich at the end of the day, or you'll have a lot of hoes at the end of the day. But I digress. So I'm just kidding. So I just personally I just aim to, find a deeper understanding of people, because like that's a definite in this world. I know people say all the time like, I'm sick of people. I'm tired of people. And a lot of times we sick of people. We tired of people because we just don't understand people. And like sometimes people don't take the time and the effort to understand people. They're like, why do I have to understand people? They don't understand me. They don't give a fuck about me. And it's like, bro, it can kind of like make like navigating life kind of like way easier if you understand like how people think, what fears they have, what motivates them. So like just finding a deeper understanding of people is kind of like my whole spill of my thing. Because I want to know how can I like support people and how can I motivate them, because one day I aim to eventually you know grow my team, like grow my team beyond just being me. Like I want a bigger group. I want to do bigger group projects, bigger trips, a bigger network, and like being able to understand people on that deep level, what's that fears, what motivates them is super important to me. So like that's kind of how I use my understanding. And like people often, like I said, it's kind of like taken back at the fact that I do have the Sharingan. Like they kind of taken back by my eye of insight, because they often surprised that I know so much about them personally in a short amount of time. And sometimes I ain't gonna lie. I be trying to make people cry tears of joy sometimes. And it be working sometimes. Like I got a couple people that was like, dang, I surprised them with something that was like very personal with them and resonated with their soul. And like they cried some tears of joy. Like, dang, like, yo, I never got nothing like this. Like, how did you know? And it's like you mentioned one phrase like 2 years ago, and I just kept it in my head. Like I kept it in my head the whole time. So so when I, went on a trip somewhere or went in the store somewhere and I seen it, like I just purchased it or I grabbed it and I sent it to you and I'm gonna give it to you. And it just hit them extra hard. But like I said, sometimes, people are taken back by that. Example, right? Um, my first job, I kind of told you about my first job in the last episode, but I surprised my boss one year for his birthday with a popcorn machine. I think he mentioned his love of popcorn like one time, like one time during the course of the job, during the course of the shift. And I was like, oh dang, like okay, one, he always watch all the shows on Netflix, Stars, Hulu, HBO, like any show, he normally watch all of them, right? And then he mentioned that like, oh, like he like popcorn. That popcorn in the mall be smelling so good. I think he went to the mall one day to try to get some Jordans or something. So I was like, dang, it'd be ham if I bought him a popcorn machine. Like I could probably make him cry if I get it. So like I ordered like a popcorn machine off of Amazon. The box was big, like it was a big box. I had to cart it on the bus and everything. And like everybody was looking at me crazy. I hit it somewhere in a restaurant and I brought it up. I brought it upstairs like, yo, here. Like he was on his break. That's what he was on his. He was on his break at the time playing Guns of Boom. That's what he was doing. He was on his break one time playing Guns of Boom in a booth that everybody normally hang on and do that break. And I brought him a box, and he was like, "What is this?" And when he opened the joint up, and he seen it was a popcorn machine, like, dang, I almost made him cry. But he got a really, really, really tough exterior. But like he was like, dang, like you really bought me a motherfucking popcorn machine. I was like, yeah. And he was kind enough to like bless us with popcorn for like months. Like he went out that day, bought like 100-pound bag or 50-pound bag of popcorn kernels. And he was like, if y'all want some popcorn, I'll bring y'all some kernels to work. So he kept on bringing them to work and we was eating popcorn like every shift. It was kind of crazy because we in a restaurant, but for some reason, like the aroma of popcorn it's just like when you pop some popcorn, everybody knows. So it was people in the dining room like, yo, y'all popping popcorn back there? Like, can we order some of that? Like, nah, G, y'all can't. So that was kind of crazy, but that's just one of the times that like, okay, I kind of use my eye of insight, right? To like, okay, make somebody day. And like I read somewhere, like during the process of like conceptualizing this episode for the pod, that insight is actually a skill, and it says that like this skill requires creativity, persistence, and thinking, deep thinking to craft, right? And I was like, dang, like the creativity and the persistence, and then just the deep thinking, the craft thing, like the creates out there. That's kind of like my whole spill. Like y'all see the pod, y'all see the pod. Y'all heard this, portions, bits and pieces of my anime backstory and how I became the person I am today, and like where I'm planning on going. Y'all probably haven't heard about where I'm planning on going yet. I may put that in another podcast. What's the plan? Um, of what I plan to do for the next 5 years, 10 years, where I hope to be at. But like that's my whole spill, being creative, coming up with these topics for the podcast, something that's witty, something that's interesting, but something that can resonate with the people that's listening, and just being persistent. Like I said, just sending it, just sticking to it, just try and take it as far as you possibly can. Like that's all me. And then like the thinking is super important. That's why how I come up with these ideas and these theories. Like I really spend hours thinking on my commute, thinking like, okay, let's think about video games. Let's think about life. Let's think about relationships. Let's think about, trips. Let's think about money. Let's think about like fashion. Like how can we get here? How can I do this? It's just something that I always do, and I just enjoy. But I'm still trying to learn, right? How to better utilize this power of insight, right? Like how can I better utilize it in my life? And like my whole thing, right? My whole spill is to this essentially I wanted to at one point I wanted to be a renaissance man. Like I wanted to just get a host of like random skills so I can be capable of doing anything, right? That was the idea. Then the other idea was after the Renaissance thing, like, yo, I most definitely probably need to be a Renaissance man and get a bunch of skills, because if it's a zombie apocalypse, the people that got a bunch of skills, those are the people that survive. The people that know how to fly a plane, that drive a stick shift, drive an 18-wheeler, drive a boat. Like, those are people that can survive, know how to shoot a gun, shoot a rifle, fix stuff, build stuff. Those are people that survive. So like the whole idea of being like a Renaissance man is kind of like the thing that I kind of wanted to do. So that's why, I'm learning, and I've been learning how to like socialize and talk to people. I've been learning how to like build my craft technical wise, learn how to cook, learn how to dress better, learn how to articulate better. That's kind of like why I've been doing what I've been doing. I've been trying to build a host of not only just practical skills, but like intangible skills, but intangible skills as well. So that just led to the development of the Sharingan. And like not everybody can have and maintain the power of insight, but I'm glad I have that ability, and I'm glad I'm able to like kind of like share it and see its effect in people's lives. Like, it means a lot to me. But I guess that's gonna be it. I didn't want to do a super duper long podcast, but this was episode 4 of the podcast, and we talked about the Sharingan, my Sharingan, the power of insight. Now, it's another level up to the Sharingan, like, and that's the Mangekyo Sharingan. And the only way you can unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan is you gotta experience some heartbreak. But that's a story for another day, fam. So without further ado, man, we're gonna end episode 4 off. Should I play a song for y'all? The Sharingan. I could play Just Send It. I could play a song for y'all. To wrap it up. I may do that. I may play Just Send It, the song, the actual rap that I wrote for y'all at the end of the video, at the end of the show. But until next time, please, right? Please go on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to the show, and rate the show for your boy. I appreciate it. Every little bit count. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Every little bit counts. We cooking. Like I said, we cooking. We still got more episodes to come. Everything is getting better. The lighting is getting better. The framing is getting better. The Instagram is getting better. Go to the website. You can even go to my website, rzmediaproductions.com. And I actually made a page for podcasts, and this is on there. So you can even check out the stuff there. But without further ado, I'm out. Even though niggas fell off a little bit, niggas still up on y'all. Said fuck the coupe and threw that money stashed in investments. Still walking but not stressed and trying to double investments. Then I doubled investments. No stressing, bro. Peep the message, bro. You gotta get involved. Some things are bigger than a bigger car. I called, told him switch the stars. Let's try to take this to a new Hemi. And red line in that new Hemi. Only fools envy. Cool shimmy. I am taking mines. Fuck sitting in the waiting line. There's no big homie, I'm by my lonely, ain't wasting time. I'm holding green like mega smoking pine. I'm molding mine, can't go in blind. Yo, soon as the 6 sign, then it's overtime. There's no colder time than mega twine in that prime. We intertwined, now intertwined. He's the boy with the cold shoulder. Never been a showboater, but he a show closer. Now run it back for all the niggas that fuck with your boy. The one who always kept in touch with your boy. The one who knew this was all skill. Never was luck with your boy. Mega always put his trust in your boy. We was sent to destroy, rebuild, lock it down and employ. New tactics, new classic. The coupe past it, bastard. Make waves and slip streams when we ain't fast enough. Stacking cash a plus, chips been adding up.
Yo, I ain't had to do the savage stuff. And I never smoked that magic dust. I'm working mine, so why you mad at us? Fucker, get on your grind so we can pass the puck. Fucker, I never cheated, but I'm glad I fucked. And sport coat probably mad as fuck because some shit ain't adding up. Yo, I done told niggas the same way y'all done showed niggas. Mold niggas couldn't control niggas. Go figure.